Liverpool Live with Mick Coyle.
Rock, sport and talk for Liverpool.
This is Radio City Talk.
Welcome to Mental Health Extra, following on from Mental Health Monday every single week. We will get some new jingles made. Jake Mills from Chasing the Stigma, don't worry.
I was about to say that. I was about to say how many taxi drivers are panicking or with your jingles there.
It's Tuesday as we speak live on the studio. It's also World Suicide Prevention Day, which has been trending across social media. Sometimes people say to me, Mate, what, are you doing something special for World Suicide Prevention Day? And I mean, we were talking about suicide this time last week, weren't we? So every day can be and should be Suicide Prevention Day. But of course, people will focus their attention on it for today. It's not enough for one day, though, is it, Jake? It's not enough. If we focus on it for one day, we go, great. One day, you might remember the messages. You might pick up one of those phone numbers. You might hear about one of those websites. But if we don't do anything until this time next year, then what's the point in doing it that one day?
Yeah, exactly, and that is exactly the point, is that everything that's done today, which is great, and the awareness and everything, only will mean something if you continue to do that tomorrow, the next day, and for the rest of the year. Suicide prevention, I think sometimes can the perception means that you are literally preventing somebody at crisis point, and although that is a form of suicide prevention doesn't have to be of that nature and that scale. Every day can be suicide prevention. If that means that you are preventing somebody from becoming unwell and living with an illness and not getting that treated, then that in turn is suicide prevention. Absolutely everything that we do about mental health and preventing people from living with mental illness is suicide prevention. So it's an everyday thing. And you know what? Just talking about mental health when it's a positive can in turn be suicide prevention, because you're able to talk about it and prevent somebody from being suicidal. That's what it's about in the bigger picture.
You've been at the coalface of this one, Jake, and it's the reason you set up your charity, Chasing the Stigma. When you hear about World Suicide Prevention, you got as close to the brink as you can get, but you found your way back. Is that something you find yourself reflecting on days like this?
In all honesty, I don't like days like today. I don't like World Suicide Prevention Day. I don't like World Mental Health Day. I don't like World Mental Health Week. I don't like these days because, yes, I do now head up a national charity, a mental health charity. I am a campaigner. I am somebody who talks openly about what I've gone through and being on attempting suicide. And I'm happy to do that. But on days like today, it kind of makes it a little bit more real. It kind of takes it away from that role and that job almost that it has become, which just kind of almost protected me from the realities of it. And days like today can make it hit home, and that's why I kind of try to do what I have to do, but then remove myself a little bit from it as well on days like today. And then we crack on tomorrow and we make every other day, as I said, Suicide Prevention Day and Mental Health Day and Mental Health Week. And that's why I've come in here today with my family who are outside, not just being really, I've got a 3.5-year-old who's would never sit this quietly, to spend time with them and to appreciate what could have been, what I do have now.
The stakes are high as well, aren't they? You know, and suicide is an absolute event. Means that when people make decisions around suicide for whatever reasons, the decisions are life impacting, not just on that person's behalf, but on the family's behalf as well. And I guess you coming back from the brink as well, you've still seen the impact of how close you got. And I guess as well, you must think from time to time about what might have happened to those who'd potentially been left behind as well.
Yeah. Again, you know, I find it really comfortable to talk about everything that I'd gone through to complete strangers all over the country. But I find it hard to talk to my family about what I nearly done, what I attempted to do. And I think because it is still raw, one of the biggest turning point in my life was seeing the reaction of my family to and the devastation that was on their faces when they realised how close I was to ending it all. That kind of is almost a lost tale, lost story, a lost perspective when we talk about suicide. And then when you've got kind of guests like when you had Alfie on, and Alfie's mum, who are people who have been bereaved by suicide. So bereavement by suicide is a completely unique bereavement, and bereavement is something that we all have to go through, and we all will have some form of understanding and some form of experience, but we won't all have bereavement by suicide, and that is a completely unique perspective. And I think I said last week, and I've said a few times, that it saddens me that people who have gone through these problems and these situations and this heartbreak are the ones who have to then go on and create something like Paul's place and James's place and Alfie's squad and Gallia's house. But it is those people who understand, who are able to create something from that position of empathy, of understanding, of knowing what it feels like and knowing what is needed in those situations.
I do find it odd, and it's World Suicide Prevention Day today, and I feel that there's a sense of anger I think I have to a certain extent. We touched on it on last week's show, but there's me speaking to a child, a 10-year-old boy, who he knows at the age of 10 what's required. A child can see what is required, yet the child has to be the person who makes the difference. The child has to be the person who goes, I need this support and it's not there for me, so I have to set it up myself. I mean, it seems like bizarre that in the world of mental health, particularly based around suicide, there are people whose entire lives have been impacted by suicide, and their knowledge is such of suicide that they could write books and present documentaries and all these things, and yet their knowledge, their sense of the importance of this issue is ultimately dismissed by, I would say, 99.5%, probably even more, of the population who think it's probably not something that I want to talk about. And I include a large proportion of politicians and MPs in that, people, decision makers who could absolutely make this a priority if they wanted to. If they thought if a 10-year-old boy can see that funding is required for children bereaved by suicide, then ministers of note within established political parties should be way, way ahead. Like, it's a pretty damning indictment of where we're at in terms of, mental health and suicide provision in this country, that it relies on a child giving up his lunchtimes and bag packing and so on and so forth, just to raise the money to set up a provision that children like him need. Like, if a child can see it.
Yeah. And do you know what? I think you got it right there. I think if anyone was to listen back to our conversation last week, it was quite a raw and angry conversation. And following that, and when the suicide statistics came out for 2018, which have seen a huge rise in suicides across the country, in young people, in women, in men, I kind of went away and I thought about it, and I was thinking, what angle could there be for government and decision makers to not be taking this seriously? What angle? Right, let's try and put our own personal opinions to one side, our feelings, our emotions, political opinion, all to one side. Now let's try and see. And I genuinely cannot fathom why they are not taking it as seriously as they should be. It can't be money. It can't be time. It can't be effort. Because all those things are there anyway. It can't be because they don't want to create new services, because people are creating them. If you just listen to people and fund them, allow them to run the services. I can't understand. And that's why, for me, I can't see any other reason other than they just do not want to. They don't want to listen. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to take it seriously, because maybe if they did, they would realise how big a problem it is.
Pat, the suicide prevention coordinator at the Champs public health collaboration based across Cheshire and Merseyside, sent me some stats across from Merseyside and Cheshire. So nationally, we saw something like a rise of 12%. The figures for Merseyside in 2017, 150 suicides, down to 114. Now, that's still 114 too many, but that's a significant drop. And I just wonder, if you were a politician looking for an angle, you might say, can we find a part of the country where there's been a significant drop, and can we take a look at what factors are in place, what community involvement there is, what other conversations are taking place? Is there something special on Merseyside that is taking place that has seen that significant drop? Is it to do with James's Place? Is it to do with the Hub of Hope? Is it to do with various different conversations that are taking place in the Life Rooms, in Gallia House, in the Lee Cooper Foundation, and all these great organisations? Because even if you were just a politician thinking, I can just make a name for myself here, just bringing those stories together and finding out, I think would put the politician in the mind of the people who work in those organisations, and they would see what an issue it is, but also what great work is going on. Now, let's not get cocky around this as well, because, you know, a one-off drop in suicide numbers, albeit good news, is 1 year. Mm-hmm. This is something which needs to trend as a decrease for a significant number of years. And up until that point, when it gets down to zero, countless lives will absolutely still, you know, be lost. But we've got to be looking at what the solution might be and asking people to come and look at the solutions that we think there might be. And I think there might be solutions around here. I think the Life Rooms might be part of the wider solution. I think James's Place might be part of the wider solution. I think the Hub of Hope and Gallia House and the Lee Cooper Foundation and Talk Liverpool and all these different I think are part of a solution if somebody just wants to grasp it and run with it. Yeah,
and we did. We wrote to the suicide prevention minister and invited her, come and see, who's from Liverpool, who has the ties to Liverpool anyway. Come and see what we're doing here, because I'd include yourself in that, Mick. And without being biased, you know, we are a national charity and we are across the country looking at other fantastic examples of work. But without being biased, I think there's something about Liverpool, the people on Merseyside who are doing the work, who are actually putting... I was going to say put the money where the mouth is, but often they don't even have money, but they're doing it regardless. And so, you know, we haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything from the Prime Minister when we wrote to the Prime Minister suggesting similar as well. And it's frustrating, but we'll continue to do that, because there's something in the city where there's people who will do things, who will do it. They'll get on with it and they'll create it, because they know we can't wait. We can't wait around for government. We can't wait around for funding. We'll do it anyway, and then we'll get the funding later. Perfect example was Paul's Place, who last week talked about the securing the lottery funding, but that's after hundreds of people have already entered. They've already helped hundreds of people with no money, because they know solutions first. Let's get it, and then let's think about the funding later.
And I don't think it's, you know, and we throw Papyrus in there as a national charity based out of Warrington and YPAS and organisations like that. It's not even that, like, oh, come and look at us, we're doing great work here on Merseyside. It's, what if this is the answer? What if this model, or the start of this model, is the answer that might work nationally? Because if it is, then great, it's a really easy model to replicate, because it relies on good people with good ideas, and you can find them all over the country, and expertise, which I think you can roll out from what we've got here as well. But also, if it's just ignored and the numbers don't work and people feel like, well, there's no point carrying on because people are just ignoring, then the numbers change and we miss the opportunity that may have presented it. And people will go, yeah, well, the numbers look good for a year or so, but after that, they seem to tail away. It's got to have that impetus that it's going somewhere, that it's moving in a certain direction. And when it does appear to be moving in that direction, we've got to be cheering it on and championing it and saying, yeah, things are different here. They're not perfect by any stretch, but they're going in the right direction as opposed to the wrong direction, which is the case nationally.
Exactly. I don't think it's a question of what if. I think it is. I think it is the solution, or at least part of the solution. And that's why that's why I can't understand why any reason not to at least have a look at it. To at least have a look at that power that lived experience has and the things that are coming from that. And I can't understand any other reason other than simply not caring enough about it. Whether that is because the way that politics is at the moment in terms of general elections and Brexit and other problems that are going on, where it's kind of taking the time and effort away. But we'll continue to shout about it because you're absolutely right, particularly in Merseyside. There's the start of a momentum. There's a reduced rate of suicides in Merseyside when everywhere else is going up, but there was still lives lost. And that's why we can't celebrate that fact, but we can acknowledge that something is happening and that work may and probably is having an effect.
And presumably that looks like crisis facilities for people who need it, from places like Merseycare and James's Place, the techs and the technological solutions like the Heads Together stuff, which I know you're on board with Hub of Hope as well, the community responses as well with the Gallia houses, the people who want to do something, Lee Cooper Foundation, that want to do things within their community, but also then the wider stuff of, I'm thinking of football therapy. I'm thinking of people who come together involved in arts projects, and come together and do other things. That there's a sense that you can talk about mental health within the community, and there are community responses. Now that's a 5-pronged thing, but in and of itself, you might actually capture 7 out of 10 people there in one of those little nets that brings them back into the fold, that makes them feel like they're part of something, as opposed to feeling like they're not part of anything and they're isolated and they're they're on their own. Which, if there's going to be one city where you should never feel like you're on your own, it should be Liverpool, right? Somebody wrote a song about that. Yeah,
exactly. And it's not about, as I said, politics or funding or money or anything like that. It's about real solutions and people, and importantly, people who've created something from a point of hurt and pain that we hopefully will never ever feel ourselves, and they've created something because they know, they see it. And they're not telling people what they should or shouldn't be accessing, but they're creating something from that perspective of being there as an option for people. And often, things that have never existed before.
Hub of Hope up and running now. Do you know the numbers you've got this year? Have you been looking at the breakdowns?
So we know that since we launched it in July 2017, we've had over 60,000 unique users across the country. It's now the biggest, most comprehensive mental health signposting tool in the UK, recognised by NHS England as the best example of using digital tech for pathways to mental health care. Great success that we've had on a shoestring budget without any promotion and advertising or anything like that. And for us now, it's about identifying that next step, how we can make it better, how we can make it more powerful, how we can make it stronger, more reliable. We're hoping that we'll be able to do that by the end of this year.
Hubofhope.co.uk if you want to type in your postcode to that, or use the app on iOS and Android as well. It'll find local mental health services near you. Before that, people were literally in a phone book or Googling random search terms on the hope of finding something.
I almost feel like I can't take credit for the Hub of Hope because it's such an obvious thing. It's just a directory, one place to go and find the help. It's really not complicated or rocket science, but it didn't exist. Again, like so many things that we're talking about that people are creating because nobody else has actually done it. And to have the recognition from NHS England and others and huge organisations and charities just shows that the power of actually having that passion to do something is often what we need above everything else.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.